Hello and welcome to Upstack America's Oracle EBS Financials Functional Training. My name is Bob and I'm the lead senior consultant for Upstack America. And with me today I have Victor, who is also a senior consultant. And today we are covering General Ledger Lesson 18. And Victor, please walk us through.
Thank you for the introduction and welcome everybody to the 18th lesson in this Oracle Financials Functional Training series. Today we're going to continue and conclude on the topic of mass allocation, which we started 2 lessons ago. We have already covered the main portions of this topic. We described what mass allocation is, and we talked about the various features of the mass allocation formula. So today, today we are going to see the mass allocation feature in action, and then conclude with a few other topics related to the same. So we already know what mass allocation is. So today we are going to go straight into Oracle using this navigation, and we are going to enter our mass allocation formula. Oh no. So let me make sure I'm logged in correctly. So the navigation is journals, define, then allocation. We already know what this, we've seen this window a couple of times before. So here we can enter the name of this mass allocation batch. So let's call it meals expense allocation. So we can use the same description. Let's save. And let's go straight into the formula. Okay. So here we can also put in mass meals expense. Now you can perhaps say that this is for company 1, the description, because remember one batch will contain one or more formula. So if you want to enter more than one journal, more than one like formula template in a single batch, then in the description you can perhaps specify exactly what each batch is for, what each formula is for, and in that batch. I don't know whether we have an allocation category. Okay. Going to use a functional currency. So that's that. We've entered the required information in this header part. So let's go straight into the lines. Now, we as a reminder, we should know what all these lines are for. Remember, line A is where we enter the cost pool. Line B is where we enter the usage factor. Line C, we enter the total usage. T is the target, and O is the offset. All right. So when you click here under the account, we are not going to enter a direct amount. We are going to refer to the account where our balance is. is sitting. Okay. So when you click here, this window pops up. All right, and you can see the different fields here, a ledger, and then all the others are the segments in our chart of accounts. Okay, and then you have another uh, fields next here, which we are going to talk about what they mean. So under ledger here, we only have one option, which is our Mascani ledger that we are using. So when you select this type field here, from this list you get these three options: constant, looping, and summing. Okay. So now remember when we were talking about mass allocation in a previous lesson, I explained that Oracle has features that allow us to tell the system how to refer to the accounts that we are using in this field. So this constant option, it means just that, like when Oracle is referencing whatever is in that field, it remains the same. It's the same value. So like for our this ledger, it's going to remain this Mascani ledger. Okay. So we are going to select constant here. So I'm going to explain the meaning of the other options, summing and looping, when we are using them, so that you can understand what is happening. So for the company, it's Mascani Developers. It's our company one. So here we are entering the account where the cost pool is sitting. All right. The expense account where we entered $1,200 in our previous lesson. The natural account value was meals. Okay, I believe we use the default division. Department was also default, which you're treating maybe like as a main office. So we have to enter the constant or looping for each value. We are going to do that after we finish this. So for this first cost pool account, we want everything to be constant. Okay. Okay. So that's that. Now there are these other fields here that we also have to take care of. The first one is the ledger currency. That's the functional currency. So so that's already selected for us. Currency type, if you click here, remember I told you the difference between total and entered currency. So entered comes into play when you've entered journals in foreign currencies and you may want to deal with the amounts that were entered in only that particular currency. But here we want to do total. Okay. But when you select the entered currency option, then again here, this field, it becomes open for you to select which particular currency you want to deal with. But we are dealing with total here. When we go to amount type, you also know these different types of amounts, PTD, quarter to date, YTD, you know those meanings. Okay. So here we want to deal with PTD. Why? Because we are allocating the sum activity in this, the net activity in this account, this expense account that we entered here, the net activity for that one period is what we are reallocating to the other departmental expense accounts. We want to deal with the period to date balance, right? And we are doing this for the current period. So you have these other options where you can reference the previous period. So when you run this for April, Oracle is going to reference the balance in this account from March. And this is the other option, year ago, same period. That is the exact meaning, okay? So we're going to do for the current period, right? Balance type, actual or budget? No, we are allocating actual amounts that are entered using a journal, but not budget amounts. So that is our selection there. So that's that for that line. That is how we enter the first cost pool line, okay? Now let's go to this second line where we said we are entering the usage factor. Let me go back to our slide so we can keep referring. Yeah, I think this will help. So we have already entered the cost pool. Now we want to enter the usage factor, okay? The usage factor is the number of employees in each department, all right? So the ledger, the same, Maskani, that will be constant. The company, Maskani developers, that will also be constant. Now, the account, we have said the usage factor is the number of employees in each department, right? So this is statistical information. And where did we put this information when we are storing? It's stored under our headcount account, right? Which we created. I think it was 8,000. So that's the account. That will also be constant. And we'll see why. Under the division, I believe this was default, and that will also be constant. Now, when we come to the segment, we have four departments, right? We have operations, finance, human resource, and I think we have sales and marketing. How do we tell Oracle that we want you to refer to the amount in each of these accounts? Because, for example, for Department 10, the account will be 008000 Department 10 and default for everything else. For HR and payroll, the account will be 001 8000 0020 and then default for everything else. So there's three departments that we want to reference. So here comes in the part where we prepared for yesterday by creating this parent value for allocations, okay? The parent value for allocation, the children values are these departments, 10 to 40. So all the departments are sitting under this allocation parent value. So this is where this parent value comes into play. Okay. So now we have selected the parent value, all right? But still we need to tell Oracle that this is a parent value and we need you to go and refer to each of the children value under that parent value to get the usage factors, all right? How do we do that? That's where the option of looping comes in, all right? So by selecting looping, you're telling Oracle, go and reference each child value in under this parent value of allocations and find the usage factor, i.e. the number of employees in each department for each department. So by looping, that's what we are doing by using this looping option. So for the others, remain default. And constant, because there is no multiple, there's no multiple values that are being referenced. So that's what the looping option means. And that's how we tell the system that, oh, here there are multiple values that we need the system to reference. Okay. We still have this second section to fill. Now, the balances that are stored here are for headcounts. Okay. So for one, the currency type will be statistical. All right. Once you enter statistical here, the entered currency is automatically picked for you as stat. So that has to be currency type statistical. When we go to amount type, we use year to date. Why? Because year to date balance for this will tell us the total number of employees in that particular department. If we use PTD, we are only referencing the increments per period. So if a department hires 10 more employees, then that amount is entered. That will be the PTD for that period. But the YTD will tell us the total number of employees in that department. So we need to use the correct usage factor. And to do that, we need to select the amount type as year to date to give us the total number of employees. Current period and balance type will be actual. Okay. Now let's go to the third line, line C. We know line C is total usage. All right. So we know that is Maskani. We know the company is 01 is not changing. Where is total usage stored? It's also stored under our headcount account, right? Because this is statistical information for the number of employees. Division 0 department. Now department here, sorry, I'm going too fast. Department here, when we go back to the meaning of total usage, it is the addition of all the individual usage factors. So here we are looking for the total number of employees. In order to do that, we have to use the allocations parent value again, because the parent value contains all the departments, and we want the number of employees in all the departments. So we have to use the parent value again for allocation. However, when we come to type, instead of using the looping option, we use the summing option. What do we mean by that? We are telling Oracle that this is a parent value and their child value sitting under it or in that hierarchy. So we want you to add everything that is contained for those child values that are under this parent value. Okay, so we want you to sum everything. That is what we need to do in order to find the total usage, which is the total number of employees. So use this summing option. Okay. All these others are default. default, and use the constant type for everything else here. Okay. Now for this, the currency is also start, right? Because that's a headcount information. We still want to use the YTD to find the total number of employees. We are dealing with the current period, and the balance can remain actual. Okay. Let's go to target. Target is what? Now target is the expense accounts for each of the departments where these expenses are now being reallocated to. All right. So this one's here. All right. These are the targets where these amounts are going to be reallocated to. Our ledger remains the same. Company 001. We are going to use the same natural value for meals, natural account value. Okay. Default division. Department, we are going to use the parent value again. Why? Because we have multiple departments, right, that we want to allocate these costs for. So we are going to use the parent value for allocations. What are we going to use for the type? Now remember, these are amounts that are going to the individual accounts for each department. They're not going to a single account. So the looping option will help us to allocate amounts for all the child values sitting under this parent value, right? So default for everything else. Constant. I think we got an error there. Hold on. Cancel. All right, so we have that department allocation, looping, unable to resolve reference. All right, so let's enter our values for the target. So we are going to use the parent value for the department because we are reallocating to the child values that are under this department. This parent value, sorry. We are going to loop to this parent value so that Oracle can allocate each amount to its respective department, right? So we're going to use the L option here. Select OK. You can ignore this error for now. Okay, let's close this first. So this is the window for the next line, which is the offset. You can see here. Let's remind ourselves what the offset is. The offset will be the credit line, because all the other entries that we are generating for this allocation journal are debit lines from, right? So a journal needs to be balanced, all right? So the offset will be the credit line, and it's the same as our cost pool account, okay? So Maskani, company 1, cost pool, I believe, not I believe, but is this account for meals. Division was 0, department was 0, all the others default values. So for this line, everything is constant, right? Because this is the only account we are referencing in this line, the offset. Okay, that's okay. You can ignore that error for now. We didn't have to enter anything for those two targets and offset lines, because all the information already is entered up here. Oracle knows what kind of amounts we are reallocating. It knows what the total usage and usage factor lines, what kind of currency they are. So whatever amounts are going to be reallocated, like the system already has information about all those amounts. So that's why we didn't have to enter anything for this last two lines. So anyway, those are your formula. That is your formula window, and you've entered all the requisite information. So you can save this, close that window. Now, when you select this generate option, Oracle will use that information that you've entered there to produce this journal, and this is going to be your allocation journal. All right. So let's select generate here. You have the option to do a one-time allocation, or you can schedule. Let's do one time first. When you select to generate, you get this parameter window. So these two options are given for you: the name of the batch and the ledger. Balancing segment value. We all know what a balancing segment is, right? In our case, it is the company. A balancing segment is the company segment. Why do you have this option? Let's cancel quickly first and go back to our formula. When we were entering these values here for the account, we entered all these values from the company for each segment, right? But again, these fields are white, right? They're not yellow, so it means they're not mandatory. So you can leave this balancing segment for company unfilled and save your formulas, all right? And then when you go to generate, you can select the balancing segment for which you want to run that particular allocation. So what that gives you is it gives you options at runtime. At runtime, you can say if company 1 and company 2, they they use the same kind of allocation, or this formula works for both of them. You can run for company 1 and for company 2, depending on which one you want. So you can either like hard code this value here, or you can leave this open and enter it at runtime. Okay. So let's go to generate again. So now, because we have hard coded, whatever we enter here doesn't matter. Oracle is going to use what is in our formula. So let's just enter 01, but even if we entered 02, wouldn't matter, it would still run for 01. Period, self-explanatory, when you want this, what period you want this journal to be generated for. We're going to do June. I think that's our current open period. July is future enterable. All right. Now down here you have allocation method, full or incremental. What does that mean? So now the cost pool account, the expense account from which we are reallocating, let's say that this is the only expense that usually goes there. All right. So every month, at the end of the month, this reallocation is run to redistribute that expense to the respective departments. Now, but what about maybe one time an additional expense is added to that account, and you need to do another allocation, like to allocate the new amounts that have been posted. So maybe we did 1200 the first time, and then another invoice came, maybe that we didn't know was going to come from the catering company, maybe another invoice of 1200. So you have two options, right? You can do an incremental allocation, which tells the system that you had already run the allocation before. All right, now you just want to run for the new amount that has been posted, that cost pool account. Or you can take that journal that was produced by the first allocation that you ran, reverse it, then you post it. At that point, you will have the balance be both the original allocation plus the additional amount that came in later. Then you can do a full allocation. So those are your two options. You can reverse the first allocation and do the whole thing again with the correct amount, including the additional amount that has come in, or you can do an incremental allocation, which means you run two allocations. The first one you already did, and then the second one for the new amount that came in. So those are the two options. So for now, we are going to do a full allocation. Okay. So we have selected all our options there, and we can select submit. That's our ID. Let's go to the SRS screen. So it's completed. You can view the output. Select this view output here, and you can see that journals have been created. Journal batch name is meals expense allocation, and then Oracle has stamped the ID in front here, but then you can see the name of the journal, which comes from the batch name that we gave, combined with the ledger name, the period for which it has been run, and you can see additional details here, the formula status and all that. So this went through without any problems. We can go to our journals page and see the actual journals, because this mass allocation process produces journals which we can then post. Okay, so let's close that. Let's go to here. These journals will be unposted. We have to review them and make sure everything is correct, then post them. Okay, we're looking for unposted journals in the period of June. And you can see right here, we have an unposted mass allocation batch. You can see the batch name here and the journal name. So let's review this journal. This batch contains one journal, the allocation journal, and you can see everything went as we had predicted, right? So amounts were reallocated according to the information we gave to Oracle, according to the number of employees. You can see, so this department had 20 employees, it got 200. This one had 20, it also got 200. This one had 50 employees, it got 500. And this one had 30 employees, it got 300. This is the offset line. So if everything is okay here, then you can post. And that is how you generate a allocation journal, right? So this is what we've done. We created the batch, we entered a formula, one formula, and we use that formula to produce an allocation journal. Now, if you want to do journals for both of your companies, for example, us, we have two companies, developers and property managers. This is what you can do. Create your batch, enter a formula for company one, then open another formula page, enter the formula for company two. So when you generate this batch, it will produce two allocation journals. So depending on the number of companies or you have in your company segment, then you can do that. The other option is to use that looping feature that I showed you. All right. So here in the company segment, you can put your companies under one current value. All right. And then use the looping type for that particular segment. Right. And so that option will produce multiple allocation journals for each of your balancing segments. Okay, so that is another way we can use. We can produce multiple allocation journals for different companies. So put your companies under a parent value, then use the looping feature just like we did for our departments, and then generate, and you will produce multiple journals using a single formula. And the other option, as we have seen, is to enter multiple formula for each of your company segments. This is what I have just explained. Enter apparent value in the company segment and then use looping option for all company segments. All right. So for all your lines, for your cost pool, for your usage factor, and for your total usage and your target and your offset, you loop the company line. That way you will produce multiple allocation journals depending on the number of values in your company segment. So that is the end of this topic of mass allocation. You can go and do practice with the other features that you have not done on the instance, such as looping for the company segment. But unless Bob, you have something to add, I believe that would be a good place to stop this lesson.
I think we're good. Thank you so much, Victor.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.